Good evening, Greg here, burning both ends, burning on the back end of Monday. It is June 18th, 2018, 10:52 p.m. Pacific. Week is off to a great start. A lot of interviews scheduled, getting in the flow, really feeling good about iCore. Interesting thing came up today. So the iCore team is 3 people, right? I'm the entrepreneurial lead. We have a principal investigator who's also from my company. And then we have a third person who's not from the company, who's outside. He's a retiree. He's an industry mentor, and so he's supposed to be someone on the business side that's supposed to help us. And I learned today that our PI is retiring at the end of this month, and there's still 26 days of iCore afterwards. So I'm curious as to see what's going to happen there. There are other folks at my company that can help. Pitch in, but I'm more worried about the continuity, the loss of continuity, right? This one gentleman's been with us since the beginning here, and even though we're only like 2 weeks in, I think we're going to lose a lot, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm optimistic. This is how things go in the real world. If this was really a startup, someone could leave the startup, someone could join, so this is a real world thing that's going to happen. So it's going to shake things up, but not going to let it affect me or the flow of the iCore program with respect to our team. So yeah, but we'll see how it goes. And I still think that he'll contribute because he's retiring, so it's not like he's going to be super busy. So he can certainly sit in on some interviews. But the topic tonight, so this is going to be kind of like a classic post. I wanted to hit this partnership topic because I think it's so important, and I'm glad that iCore covers it, and they've got a whole slide deck about this. I'm just going to kind of rip into a couple different things because partnerships can be extremely profitable, and in my opinion, as one is building a business, it's important to think about early on and learn how to cultivate mutually beneficial partnerships. Right? There is a skill there, and it takes time. Because when I had my startups, right, the aerospace startup, the technology startup, we were constantly looking for partnerships and working for other companies to work with, to help them, to help us, right? There are all kinds of reasons, right? Sometimes it's resources, sometimes it's money, sometimes it's just access to a customer, sometimes it's skill set. I guess that's like resources. And we found it to be incredibly challenging, right? It just takes considerable time and patience, persistence, wherever we heard that before. Imagine that, to build these relationships that are necessary, and the timing aspect, right? So it's relationships and timing. Imagine that, and just hit my microphone there. Relationships and timing. So I linked my old post to that in the outline down below there. And what also, I learned is kind of the skepticism that comes up when you're initiating, well, at least that I saw in initiating partnerships. It depends on what industry you're in, who you're going after. If we were always the small guys, so we were always, I guess the bigger companies are always going to be a little bit suspect about a small startup that's looking to partner. But yeah, it does. It takes time, and so let's now get into some of the ingredients of a successful partnership, right? So you can have things like shared economics, right? Like it's just financially beneficial for both people to work together. Simple. A mutual success or failure aspect, where we're maybe we were competitors, but we're going to come together on this, and we're going to collaborate on this proposal, so that way we both get a piece of it, because we know that if one or the other just gets the whole thing, that might be bad news for the one that didn't get it, right? So there are reasons why collaborating for a mutual success is good. Or maybe like maybe the RFQ switches a little bit, and now 2 companies are now not perfectly suited for the proposal, but joining together now they're very well suited. So there's stuff like that. Co-development, invention. Maybe one company has the ideas and one company has the facility to do the testing, things like that. When we had the technology startup, it was like that. We had an interesting installation technology, and we were working with a company that had a really good testing facility. And so that was going to be a good partnership. At least we thought. Never worked out, but that was kind of the beginning and the thinking early on. complementary capabilities, investments. It's pretty straightforward. Common customers, right? We're going after the same people, but we have slightly different offerings, so we can combine them and kind of, do twice as good or really, come at our customers in a different way, in a more profitable way. And then this is one of the key things is like, you have all these reasons to partner up, and then you're going to get to this fork in the road where you need to be in alignment and agreement on things. And I did a post on alignment versus agreement and the challenges there, right? Alignment is typically, is going to be more flexible and allow more room for each person. But at some point, you're going to have to sign an agreement, and there's a letter of the law there, and that can be very difficult. I found that was one of the most difficult things in any kind of partnership, was when something has to be signed, and then you get lawyers reviewing things and analysis of all these words and these phrases and sentences, and what does that mean and what does this mean. And this is where the skepticism starts going through the roof, because now the lawyers are going back and forth, and you're starting to pay all these fees, lawyer fees, and you're just kind of getting sick and tired of looking at this thing. But at the same time, if something happens down the road, you're going to go back to this document and read it, and then you're going to understand what it meant. It's kind of like, in my opinion, like insurance, right? I only really understand how good my insurance is after I got into a car accident. And then I find out what they will pay for and what they won't pay for, right? Only in that concrete example do I learn the black and white of the agreement. Any kind of hypothetical, it's kept in this kind of like, well, we're not really sure. It's just gray area. But then all of a sudden I get into an accident and this happens, and then now, the black and white part of the agreement comes out very quickly. And so that's just a tough thing. And and my experience is that I just have to trust the other people. It just comes down to that, because no matter what you write on a page, no matter what the sentence says, there's always an interpretation that will go against or for in whatever situation it is. So there's no bulletproof agreement. At least that's my experience, not just opinion, but my experience. So benefits of a partnership. These are kind of straightforward, right? Faster time to market. Right. There can be unique knowledge or expertise that one party's seeking out. Innovation, of course. Capital can be something. Maybe I can take this pile of money, and if I run it through this partner, I'm a lot more efficient with that because they have infrastructure, they have facilities, they have something. I can maybe have a broader or more complete offering, whereas I was only offering a subsystem, but now with this partnership, we can offer a complete system. As far as customer or supplier access, maybe I'm going to partner with them because they've got relationships set up with the supply chain that I want to have access to, or this customer base that I want to have access to, and then just expand sources of revenue, new access to new markets. There are maybe even infinitely many reasons why, or benefits to a partnership, but it could probably all be boiled down to margin and market share when you think about it, right? That's kind of the universal benefit, not universal, but the foundational benefit to any business dealing. It's margin and market share. The advice that was given by the ICOR folks was use partnerships to try to get sales as opposed to for investment. And I would agree with that. And I have to say that all the partnerships that we went for in the aerospace and technology startup, that was for sales. That was to get sales. That was not an investment of money in the company. That was to get sales. We had a minimum viable project with one company. And the benefit to us was that we would get to, flex our muscles and test our insulation. And for them, we were going to give them a drop-in part that was going to vastly improve their previous part. So things like that. So now we get into kind of like the exercise part. So the ICOR program poses these 5 questions to think about when you're pondering partnerships. And I'll go through the 5 questions, and then you can kind of take it from there. So when thinking about partnerships, think what key partnerships do you think you need to achieve the next risk reduction milestone, right? It's all about reducing risk, right? That's what business is about. This is how investment is made. This is how things are moved forward. Is risk is reduced. And so what's the next major risk milestone, and how can we mitigate that risk? And it might be a partnership, right? So now think about the partnership. So we have company A that we're going to think about partnering with it, right? Why do we need them, and why do they want to partner with us, right? There's got to be something on both sides of the table. And one of the gentlemen that we interviewed for this I-Corps program, he likened it to dating, right? It's like when dating, there's got to be something attractive on both sides. And the things could be different, right? One person could want physical looks, the other person might want, someone that's really smart, or someone that dresses really well, or someone that drives a certain car, or lives in a certain place, a certain location, has a certain lifestyle, likes to travel a lot, right? I mean, so it's not just good looks, right? There's different people like different things. And so what are the attractive features on either side of the deal? And there needs to be one on each side. It needs to be a win-win. And then how will we test this hypothesis, right? So we have these hypotheses on what we need, on what they need, and why it's going to be beneficial. And so how can we test that before we really get in too deep together? I think that's important. In this book called, the 10 Essential Elements to an Agreement by Stuart Levine, that's a great book, by the way. Part of the elements are things like, how do we dissolve the agreement? What if we have a conflict? And it's interesting to talk about those things when you're writing up the agreement, because those are pretty kind of controversial, confrontational topics, right? It's tough to talk about. We haven't even signed this yet, but now we're going to go through how we're going to dissolve it, right? We're going to go through if we disagree on something. But that's important, right? It's important to kind of have those like fake fire drills before something really bad happens. That way, at least you kind of talk through it, and at least you get a few, bits of understanding of how something might proceed if there are problems. Because it'd be better to find out before you sign the agreement in some hypothetical situation than after the agreement, and now you're really in some business deal, and now money's on the line, people's jobs are on the line, customers are on the line. Let's find out before that happens as to what's going to go down here if it hits the fan. And then what do you need to accomplish to get your startup to the point where you can create a mutually beneficial relationship with one of these people or organizations, right? So, as a startup, essentially we have nothing, right? I mean, we have maybe a really good idea, maybe some IP. So what are the things that we can do to kind of like warrant or be worthy for a partnership? Very critical, right? Because it's not just what's in it for us as the startup, it's what's in it for them too, right? That's the key thing. And we as a startup might have to get to some point where, okay, now we can have a partnership because now we have these early adopters, or we have this round of funding. We have something, right? Something in our back pocket, something that we can put on the table and go, this has, intrinsic value to it. And therefore, this is what we're going to use as leverage or as collateral for this partnership, right? So that way the other company puts up their collateral, and now there's some equal weight there. If we as a startup just come to the table with our good idea and nothing else, it's going to be a tough one. So might have to put some work in. That's why, I guess, going back to the very beginning of the conversation, it's, when one is building a business early, and maybe I didn't say this enough, but early in the process, think about how do we cultivate these things, because it could be years of discussions of relationship building before someone's ready to partner with you. And during those years, part of it is understanding what does the other person need or other company need to see in us as a startup to create that partnership. Maybe they need a certain following on a social media platform. Maybe they need to see some sales. Maybe they need, to see, a third-party testing facility verify a product of some sort or something that we're building, right? I mean, you don't know what it is, but you can learn, and the only way to learn is through the relationship, by talking, by connecting, by communicating. And so that's why just start early, and good things will come, definitely. I mean, there's no doubt, because in the same sense that we as a startup are looking to partner, there are other companies that are doing the same exact thing, and so they're looking for us. And so they're going to ask the same questions and have the same kind of set of requirements on their side. What are they putting on the table? What are we putting on the table? So, this is not just us looking for people. I mean, this is constantly happening on throughout the business world. So definitely a very important thing to grasp, to work on. It takes considerable work. It takes work, kind of almost like consistent work, persistent work. So but it can be very beneficial too. So I mean, there are lots of great partnerships, and I'm sure that we can all think of a whole bunch of really great ones, right? Like I buy toothpaste and I buy Crest toothpaste and there's Arm & Hammer baking soda on the label too. Now that's a very specific type of partnership, but and I think that we're seeing it more and more, more in our spaces, these partnerships and companies coming together, to do things, especially companies that are in industries where the infrastructure is extremely important. I was at a natural gas conference a couple years ago, and that was kind of like the buzzword was partnerships, because it just the infrastructure is so expensive that people have to get together. I know Semiconductor does this as well. They just because of how expensive, they have to start agreeing on certain things to move the whole industry forward, or else they're going to just start burning their own money. And so these are critical things. A lot of open source software out there. A lot of the Android platform, for example. It's either Android or iPhone, and it's interesting how Apple has been able to hold on to that for for quite some time now, and I wonder when they're going to lose their grip on it, which it's probably already happening. It's kind of like beta and VHS, if you can go look that one up. Right, I'm not sure if it was, I think it was Sony had beta, and I think Panasonic had VHS, and Panasonic just opened up VHS to everybody, and Sony tried to keep beta to itself. I think I'm getting the story right. I hope I am. But it was something like that, and that's why beta never made it, even though beta was higher quality. VHS made it because everyone was doing VHS. And if way back in the day, back when I was your age, back when I was a kid, watching TV, and they had these infomercials for these videos, like these Time magazine videos or whatever they were. And at some point they were like available on beta too, and then that just went away. It was just VHS, and then it went to compact disc. Laserdisc had a little stint in there. Laserdisc never really made it, I don't think. But actually, I know it didn't, because it's not around anymore. And if you know someone that has a Laserdisc player, it might be worth some money. And even CDs now, right? CDs are almost useless. So anyway, that's tonight's post. Hope you enjoyed it. Partnership is really important. Check out the outline. And this is just another piece of the puzzle that I'm putting together as an aspiring entrepreneur. This is, thinking about business, thinking about success, and these are definitely some important pieces. And this whole channel is about my journey as an aspiring entrepreneur. So subscribe, comment down below, tell me what you think. Tell me if you got any questions or any challenges that you want to throw at me. I'd love to help. I'd love to be of service. So please let me help. I've linked some motivational sites down below. There's some great music down below as well in the description. The beat in the background is an Afro beat inspired by Fela Kuti. My alter ego is G Money. I write these beats, so check them out on SoundCloud. There's a bunch there for free. And that's about it. So get some rest. Tomorrow morning we'll hit the success journal. That's still working very well for me. And have a good night, and I'll see you in the morning.